All right, today is September 18th, 2025. Uh, this is my review of today, September 18th. Um, this was the day after FOMC. We had quite a bit of volatility. Um, I believe the Fed dropped interest rates by 25 basis points, which was already priced in and it wasn't a huge surprise. But whenever news like that hits the tape, it's always at least a little bit of volatility. There wasn't a lot of directional volatility. Not that it matters much, anyways, but we just kind of essentially chopped around just on a lot of volatility. Um, for what it's worth. But that being said, the open today was very volatile. We had like 15-point rotations at one point, I think. Maybe not 15, but definitely like 5 to 10 point rotations. I made the decision pretty early on to drop my size from 2 lot to 1 lot, which I think was a very good idea. And it ended up being a great session. So, first, let's dive into the plan. This is my plan for today. Um, we printed this very, very wide daily candle yesterday because of FOMC. My my plan was as follows: if we accepted above prior day high, I was going to be long biased. If we breached prior day high and then accepted below, I was going to be short biased. And you can see on the daily chart, it looks like either one of those are possible because we had already breached prior day high in the overnight trading. Anything in between equals risk off. Um, my initial plan was trade 2 lot unless average rotation becomes extreme, more than 5 points. And I stuck to that plan. I'm really proud of myself for sticking to that plan because I ended up having a great session. And I think even subconsciously, if I was on 2 lots, if a trade came back against me, which a lot were today, um, my drawdown on a lot of these trades was pretty sizable, not extreme, but pretty big. And if a trade comes back on me, 5 or 6 ticks on a 2 lot, I'm gonna be sweating. It's gonna be a really hard trade for me. So the fact that I stayed to a 1 lot when trades came back on me, I was not worried about it whatsoever because this is the kind of environment where you need to welcome risk. Uh, 8 ticks profit target, 16 ticks daily loss limit. Um, I went way above profit target because I was on a 1 lot. I don't want to get in the habit of doing that every day. I think 8 ticks on a 1 lot is still plenty, but given the volatility today, I wanted to push myself a little bit, and I think picking up the 15 ticks that I did or whatever was it's something I'm proud of because um, one of the common misconceptions of trading is that like as long as your risk is defined, you'll be a good trader. That is not true. At the end of the day, we're here to make money, and you need to welcome risk, and you need to chase profits. You have to push your winners as far as you can. And if I'm trading this session as if it were a single trade, I need to push my profit as far as I can realistically. So I think pushing my profit target from 8 ticks to the 15 or whatever was a good call. Narrate every trade and take breaks if needed. I did a good job of that. I narrated every trade, which you will see in the playback. Little water break there. So that's it for the daily plan. I'll go over price action real quick. You can just see where FOMC hit the tape yesterday. We got these huge rotations. So wasn't a surprise that today was going to be volatile. Um, these were my trades. I had 3 trades, 100% win rate. My average winning trade was 5 ticks, and obviously 0 losing trades. So I don't know what my losses were. So my MAE, max adverse movement, or whatever it stands for, excuse me, on my first trade, it was 1-to-1. I had 4 ticks of drawdown and 4 ticks of profit, meaning the trade came back on me 4 ticks, but then went 4 ticks in my favor. Let's actually put in, can I show MAE, MFE on here? No, I can't for some reason. How do I add MAE, MFE on here? Oh, I think it's in here. Apply. Change that back to white. Stand by. All right. So you can see I didn't have any MFE on any of these trades, meaning I took them off at the very peak of the trade. They didn't pull back at all, which is not necessarily a good thing. I think that means that I'm not letting winners breathe as much. And I should at least have a little bit of MFE because that means that I let the trade breathe. It started coming back against me, so I cut it instead of just taking it off at the very first opportunity because like I was saying just a minute ago, trading is about profit more than it is about risk. But you can see here my MAE was pretty solid, 4 ticks for the first trade, and then only 1 tick for the next 2 trades, which I think is pretty good. They only came back at 1 tick. I've always naturally been very good at entries over exits, but that's something I'm working on, trying to get better at exits. Let's get into the actual trades. This is trade number 1, 4 tick profit to the short side. Let's watch the replay. So it looks like it might want to take it, but they are. I'm going to take it here. 75.25, a little bit of a premature entry. Let's see what it gives me on the way down. A little bit of drawdown here, but considering the volatility, I have to take the drawdown. Got filled for a point profit, I believe, but I might have given me slippage. Let's see if it did. Yeah, so 1 point profit to start. So what happened there was price dropped so fast in my favor that I thought I might have gotten lucky and had some slippage on my exit, which would have been nice. But it didn't, unfortunately. I definitely could have held this trade longer, especially given the volatility. I think one of the problems that I'm facing, which isn't a horrible problem, is that my first trade of the day, I'm usually just ultra conservative on. I'm really trying to preserve capital, and I take the trade off pretty much as soon as it goes in my favor. Again, this isn't a horrible problem to have, but considering the setup quality here, I really would have liked to push this trade a little farther. Let's go ahead and screenshot this first. Um, yeah. All right, let's screenshot this. Let's start with the narrations. So 30-second plus 4 ticks short. This is risk on. Let's do executions. I believe my entry was here. Exit was like right here, I believe. An ideal exit would have been if I let this reclaim breathe all the way down, I think. I also think my entry was a little premature, so let's draw an ideal entry. It'll probably be at the same tick, but just a little later. So maybe like, no, I won't read too much into that. I think the entry was fine. My entry, my exit, and ideal exit would have been further down. Take back that whole reclaim, ride that momentum into low of day because it looks pretty clear that we are going to want to take low of day back. Let's highlight the order blocks. I had two pretty big ones right here. One further down here, and one all the way down here. And then as far as red goes, I've got a bunch right here that we're going to invalidate. There's also a bunch right here that we invalidated earlier. There's some precedents down here. We're taking other shit back. Okay, that looks good. Precedents. Boom, boom, boom. Looks good. So invalidation of all those reds. And then pretty self-explanatory, we trade into those greens. Cool. All right, that looks good. We did also come up and invalidate some on the 30-second, but instead of pointing those out, I'm going to point out the fact that there is still some backside risk. Backside risk. So it's not an A plus setup by any means, just because there is still backside risk with those big cell blocks above us, but it's pretty close. I mean, we invalidated a lot on that move up. I think that's it. Cool. Screenshot that, paste that in there. So, precedence of these sell side order blocks getting taken back and invalidated And then there's also precedence of the buy side order blocks getting taken back, which makes for very good continuation trades as far as the short side goes. Just got to be careful of the backside risk. So not a whole lot else went into this trade. I definitely had trend favor, had big order blocks and small order blocks in my favor. I did have a little bit of reclaim in my favor. And I think that's it. Yeah. Backside, I had a couple big order blocks on my backside, but I don't think I had any small ones on my backside. So that's good. Entry was a little early, but the exit was also a little early. I could have held this longer. As far as setup grade goes, I'd call this a B. I think it's a solid B setup. I did have slip favor. At this point in the session, I was clear on my market read. I had pulse checked 3 times before this, and every one of those pulse checks was a winning mental trade. So one of my goals from yesterday was to take more mental trades before I place any real trades, and today I did exactly that. And I even had a 100% win rate with my mental trades. I was also calm, I was content, and I was patient. I had waited, 17 minutes before taking this trade, which I'm very proud of. This will be a green star. Trade number 2 is also a 4-tick profit to the short side. I'm going to rewind and watch the recording. There, and invalidate it. I will look for another try to short. 75.50 is the number I'm looking for. I'm going to take it here. 74.25 filled short. Take it for the point. Got the point. So that puts me at 2 points on the day. So it was a pretty fast trade. I think this one was a little sketchy. It was a great setup on its face. So without using hindsight, I think this again was probably a B setup, maybe even an A. But what ends up happening, if I fast forward the video a little bit, this is low of day. Had I held this any longer, not only would the trade have come back on me, but we go all the way to high of day after this. So if I'm using hindsight here, there was a lot of risk with this trade, but at the time of placing it, it looked like a very simple continuation. So I'm not upset with that at all. It looked like we were going to continue going lower. Maybe one thing I need to take into consideration next time is the fact that we're at low of day and a whole bunch of bid volume is coming in on the delta. That's something I was not paying attention to at the time of trading, and maybe I'll even tag this as missing context because that is pretty important context. If we're at the low of day and a whole bunch of volume is starting to come in and we're not going lower, chances are we're probably going to reverse, and that's exactly what ended up happening. But regardless, let's watch, or let's screenshot this trade. No, I'm not going to fast forward it that much. I'll go to where my exit was. So, again, this is almost the exact same trade that I just took. Let's highlight these invalidations. So we invalidated all that. We had nothing else on our backside. We just had a couple greens on our front side. And that's pretty much it. That's all we really had. We overshoot quite a bit with that move up. Which I need to be careful about. Oh, and I do have one more 30-second green bar below us. So this is our invalidation. We also need to be careful about backside risk still. I think my entry was about here. I think my exit was like here or something like that. I only think the setup grade here, now that I'm looking at it, is probably even lower. I think it's probably a C setup, which, because we're risk on to the short side, I think trades like these are valid. They're worth taking, because chances are statistically we're going to head lower. But I don't think it was worth more than 4 ticks. Like the last one was like a B setup. I think I could have got maybe 6 ticks out of it, especially because we're risk on to the short side. But given the fact that this setup quality is pretty poor, I don't think it was worth more than just a couple ticks. I think that's it. Nothing too crazy about these trades. Paste that in there. All right, so tags. I only had small order blocks in my favor. I technically had big order blocks on my backside, but because we had invalidated the freshest ones, I would consider those backside order blocks to be stale, and I'm not really worried about those being on my backside. It does make me cautious, and I think I did do a very good job of practicing caution on this trade. Um, but I still think I'm not too worried about that. I'm not even going to tag them. I had the trend in my favor, and I don't think I really had anything against me. I also had range favor, because if we're counting this as a little slip range, which I would personally, I definitely had the slip favor on it. I'm going to make a note down here. Missing context delta spike at low of day. Okay. Entry good, exit good. I wouldn't change anything about execution. I think I got out is exactly when I needed to, considering the validity of the move. This was a conservative scalp. This was a C setup, I believe. Market read was clear. I was calm, I was content, and I was patient with this guy. I'm also going to mark this as try to, since it was essentially the second attempt at the same setup. This will be a green star trade. Let's move to the next one. Trade number 3 is a 7-tick profit to the short side. So a pretty big trade for me. I'm going to rewind a couple seconds just so we can get some context. $50. I'm going to try a shimmy back short here. 89.25. I never ended up filling. Wait again. So that was not the trade. That was me trying to get short on a move, but I just couldn't get filled on it. I had some sort of broker error. I tried to place an order at the offer, but for some reason the broker didn't accept it. It rejected that order. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe I should look through the message log. And that ended up costing me a trade because I think that would have been a good trade for about a point maybe. Let's keep watching. We invalidated one of those green blocks on the 30-second, but there's a whole bunch left on the 3-second. Let's see if we can invalidate 88.75. Got it. Short 88.75. Move my stop up just a little bit. I don't want to risk the full 10 ticks here. I'll take it there. All right, got the fill. I think that was 7 ticks. So 7 ticks profit. I could have held it a little longer. I'll even just, if we zoom out to a different time frame, this ended up going like 5-10 points lower. I will never, or I shouldn't say never, but I am certainly not right now the kind of trader who is looking to hold for 5 to 10 points. I think the 7-tick scalp is already a really big win for me. So there's no sort of there's no regret in taking the trade off where I did. However, just for the sake of always striving to do better, I will screenshot where a perfect exit would have been, which would have just been a couple ticks lower. Where was my exit? Uh, 87 was my exit, so just going to fast forward. I would have liked to capture a little bit more of that move. So let's screenshot. I'm going to go ahead and call this an A+ setup. This was risk on, so I was trading with my bias. And let's see the executions. So if I got out at 87, I think I got, yeah, I entered right about here. My exit would have been right here. My absolutely ideal exit probably would have been on this fresh low right here. All right, let's fucking highlight all of these buy side blocks that I had, Just a whole whack of them. There's nothing, literally nothing on my backside either. I shouldn't say that. There was one pink behind me that I should be careful of, but otherwise, nothing. So a little bit of backside risk, but if I'm gonna be fair, there's also a lot of green bars on the 30-second that I was trading into, so they kind of cancel out in my opinion. There's also precedence of these getting taken back. So lots of buyers below that I'm fading into, obviously. Buyers below that I am fading into, and no sellers above. I'm not even going to make a note of that. No sellers above, which is good because there's nothing behind me that's going to make price want to jump back up to it. At least on the 3-second. There's one on the 30-second, but I'm not too worried about it. I think that's it. There is a key level here that we've flushed 3 times. I'm going to. That's not something I was paying attention to at the time, but it's something I want to pay attention to now. Yeah, so price keeps rejecting here. We've created some resistance and we've come up and tested that and failed. I'll even put one in here because why not? We'll put it in these peaks. I'm on the right side of the V. Man, this is perfect. This is perfect trading. I will also highlight the invalidations. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Price is invalidating. Sellers on the way up. paste that in there. So we invalidate all of these sellers on the way up, meaning that those sellers, in theory, are no longer in the market. We've flushed all that liquidity, and now there's an opportunity for fresh sellers to come in, which is exactly what the market maker wants. They want to get rid of all that old liquidity, stop them out, or give them an opportunity to take profit, and then create another opportunity for more liquidity to join the market, which is what's happening here. All these buyers joined, and now the market maker is going to want to target all of those buyers, because that's what the market does. It targets the buyers, and then it targets the sellers, and then it targets the buyers, and then it targets the sellers. It's just predatory. It's predatory price action, which is exactly what I am trying to accomplish here. So I short in order to fade all of those buyers that have joined, and that's exactly what ends up happening. There's also precedence of this happening. We were targeting buyers pretty much all day, and sellers. Like, we targeted all those sellers on the way up. I didn't take any longs there because my plan did not account for it, which is fine. But I captured a really, really good short here on the way down. We also created this key area here from 91 to 93, it looks like, of resistance. So there's a key resistance here between 91 and 92. In the future, I want to mark those out. I want to draw a square here because it's not something I was paying attention to when I took this trade. If I was, I maybe would have pushed this trade a little further. Speaking of which, I do wish I held it a little longer, got maybe 3 or 4 more ticks out of it. This could have been a really, really juicy trade. Not that it wasn't already, but just more so. And I think that's it. So let's jump into tags. I had big order blocks in my favor and small order blocks in my favor. I did have one big order block on my backside, which I'm going to tag. I had the trend favor. I also had range favor because we're kind of ranging in a trend. We've put in this range, but with a clear bias to the short side. I will tag this multiple factors of support. Entry was good. Exit was a little early. Would have liked to hold a little bit longer. This was pretty conservative, honestly. Conservative. I'm going to call this a move to move because I really wanted to see that first. I had a clear target in mind when I placed this trade, which was that first block of orders. I just never ended up holding for it. This was an A+, risk on. Slip favor, clear, calm, content, patient. Pretty much as perfect as you can get with a trade like this. It will obviously be a green star. Just a perfect trade. I couldn't really improve on it other than the exit. I wish I held a little longer. But that's pretty much it. That was the session. 3 trades, 100% win rate. I will review my daily report card real quick. If I had to give myself a grade, I would say A+. I think today was an A+ day. I can't think of any major mistakes that I made. Honestly, I missed context on trade 2, but it wasn't detrimental context. It would have maybe prevented me from trading here, but it was a winning trade, so why beat myself up over that, It was still a good solid trade. My goal for this session and for many sessions to come is narration. I want to narrate every trade, build a story. The best trades have a good story, and I think I did a good job of that today. I narrated every trade. I even put together a really nice story for my trade number 3. I just had a lot of shit working for me. And I think it ended up being, it ended up paying off in the form of P&L. 7 ticks was a big win. I don't think I have any specific short-term goals. Yeah, I can't say that I really do. I think I just because I don't want to place too many goals. Lance Brightstein, this is his daily report card template. He says that traders should never really have more than one goal at a time. And my goal for right now, for the foreseeable future, is narration. Not only does narrating mean talking and literally narrating the trades, it also means building a narrative, taking all these sources of information and building a narrative for what you want to happen throughout the day. And I think I did a pretty good job of that. Maybe one short-term goal I might have had was to follow my plan, to create a plan every day and to follow it. And I did exactly that today. I didn't deviate from my plan one bit, other than maybe going over profit target. But who cares? Going over profit target is a good problem to have. My easiest trade, it's got to be my easiest trade always ends up being the trade with the most profit, but that's kind of the point, isn't it? The easiest trades should give you the most profit, and that's exactly what trade number 3 was for me. It was just the setup was so clear. There was so many factors of support in my favor. The chart and the indicator that we're using was just screaming at me to take a short. I wish I had paid attention to the resistance level. That would have added a lot of edge for me, and I maybe would have pushed this trade further. But regardless, it was definitely my easiest trade. As far as things that I did well, it's got to be narrating. If that's my biggest goal, then the thing I'm most proud of that I did today was narrating and building a story and constantly talking, just always talking about what the price action is doing, because um, I'm a huge believer that the best way to bring a thought from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind is to talk, to say it. And a lot of what I'm doing is just sitting here talking to myself, but that's good. That's bringing all of my thoughts from my subconscious mind, where the subconscious mind has a tendency to just recycle and to snowball, and it's overthinking. When we overthink, that's what's happening. It's our subconscious mind just literally snowballing, getting all these thoughts and spiraling into these different thought processes. But talking just brings it out of that mess and just puts it out into the world, and you can actually think about it objectively. Um, I also followed my daily plan, which I think is really important. It's okay to deviate from my plan a little bit, but the goal is gonna 90% of the time to follow my plan, and that's what I did today. Um, I think I also did a much better job today of practicing patience. My first trade wasn't until 17 minutes after the open, which is a big improvement from the last session where I was trading like 5 minutes after the open. Taking those pulse checks and just taking my time with it, not rushing. At one point in the session, I literally stood up to go make a cup of coffee. Like, I walked away from the screen. So um, trading for only an hour each day seems like a short amount of time, but there's a lot can happen in that hour. And um, I think it's important, even if I'm only trading for an hour, to take breaks, because the last thing I want to happen is to get this time necessity mindset where I feel like I have to sit here for an hour and that like I need to observe every price action, because it just gets toxic. The next thing you know, I'm trading every piece of price action, which I do not want to happen. Um, Things that I need to improve on. Uh, Pay more attention to the larger time frame, like the 30-second and the 5 minute, because there was very clearly a resistance level there. Um, what price level was that again? At 92s. So pay attention, like observe that resistance and draw it out, draw it on the chart, so that way next time we test it, I have an idea of what we're gonna do. Because had I been paying attention to that piece of information, I think I could have pushed this trade a lot further. Which kind of brings me to my next point of things that I need to improve on. It's becoming more apparent that I need to push my winners. I am really good at entering trades. I think I have a natural talent for it. Um, my my average drawdown on most of my trades is virtually nothing. The trades just instantly go in my favor, um, which should mean that I have a really high win rate. But historically, I don't have a really high win rate. My win rate for the last 6 months has hovered around 50%, which is not good. And that's because I think um, I'm not pushing those winning trades far enough. I'm just taking them off the minute they go in my favor, or even like if they come back against me a couple ticks, I'm taking them off. I need to let them breathe a little bit more. Profit should be um, the goal. I think a lot of the beginner trading mentality is about preserving risk and keeping your losses small, which is fine maybe for the beginning, but we're traders. We have to push profit. Like if I'm in a winning trade, I gotta take as many ticks as I could possibly get out of it. Um, but at the same time, I'm also a scalper, so it means I gotta be tight. I take the trade off. Um, I can't be overstaying my welcome. So it's a very fine balancing act. There's nothing I want to change about my system right now to accomplish that. I just want to point it out. I think it's important to point out like I could be pushing these trades a little bit further, but I'm not going to beat myself up over it either because I had a 100% win rate today. So there's two sides to that coin. Um, in summation, in summary, I don't think today was a bad session by any stretch of the imagination. I think it was a great session. I'm super proud of it. I'm super proud of the way I've been trading this week. I I need to make sure that my trading stays boring and consistent, because as soon as things start to get volatile, which they have in the past, that's usually where I start to spiral, whether they be volatile profits or volatile losses. It's that P&L volatility that usually causes me to spiral. So um, I just gotta not focus on any of that. Just focus on the next setup. What does the next setup look like? What does the next trade look like? And just put 100% of my thought process into the next setup instead of what's my P&L gonna look like tomorrow. How much am I willing to push my account and stuff like that. It's just avoid that mentality at all costs. Focus on the next setup. Focus on the next trade. And if I keep doing that, regardless of if I have a losing day or a winning day, as long as I'm focusing on the setup and the trades, that's all I can ask for. That's all I want to accomplish as a trader in the short term future is just focus on setup quality. And I think I did a pretty good job of that today. So that is it. I will catch the next one, I suppose.